The Google Pixel is back for its third year, and this year my conclusion is simple and cliche. Third time is indeed a charm. Looking at just the back of the Pixel 2 XL side by side with the Pixel 3 XL, you might think the two phones are identical, and I wouldn't blame you. Don't be fooled though, this year's phones are a major step forward versus last year's models in more ways than one. First of all, the display is greatly improved. But I'll get it out of the way first. There is that little face looking back at you. I personally don't prefer it, and I don't think Google has justified it from a design perspective, but my emotions toward it have evolved into much more of a neutral acceptance of this as a halfway point to something prettier in the coming years. I'll say this, using the phone daily is different than looking at pictures of it on the internet. I've learned to live with and appreciate it, not just because I just don't focus on it anymore, but also because lots of apps that I use the most hide it anyway. After a little less than a week, I've actually found myself gravitating toward the notched Pixel 3 XL over the smaller 3, despite preferring the smaller phone's design. That big display is hard to pass up, no matter how big the cutout is. The displays are essentially identical in quality to the naked eye. Regardless of what you're doing, watching videos on YouTube, playing games, or just scrolling through Twitter, you'll be more than happy with these displays. Pixel 3 defaults to an adaptive color mode, which bumps up colors and saturation, but has been tuned to limit the oversaturation of skin tones and reds. Oh, and Always On Display is back. This year though, the new wallpapers shipping with the device take advantage of the Always On Display for the first time. Some wallpapers, like the moon for instance, will show a vague outline on the Always On Display. It's a nice touch, and the kind of thoughtful take on a fundamental feature like this that you won't find on many other phones. Thankfully this year, Google has returned to the consistency you may remember from the original Pixels. Unlike last year, there's no weirdness to consider that might make one objectively better than the other, so essentially any praise I have for the Pixel 3 goes for the Pixel 3 XL and vice versa. There's a really nice soft touch glass back this year, which is made of Gorilla Glass 5, the same glass that's on the front. Contrary to various reports, I don't think the matte back is any more scratch prone than any other glass-backed phone, so rest assured in that department. Also on back, you'll find the Pixel imprint, which is just as fast as you'd expect. On the front, you'll find two front-firing speakers that Google has stuck with for the last few years. This has never been an important feature for me personally, but I've found that they are loud and more balanced than last year's. And on the bottom is the usual USB-C port and, interestingly, the SIM card tray. Overall, I think these phones just have this degree of lighthearted niceness to their look and design that I haven't seen on any other flagships. In the best way, Pixel 3 makes the iPhone and Galaxy phones look like maybe they just take themselves too seriously. Most usual specs you'd expect from a phone of this caliber are also here. There's a Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 processor, an Adreno 430 GPU for pushing those graphics, 4 gigs of RAM, which I have found to not be an issue at all, 64 gigs or 128 gigs of storage, all the usual sensors and radios, and improved haptics. A note on the haptics, they're the best I've felt on an Android phone, but not quite up to par with the first generation Taptic engine which launched with the iPhone 6s in 2015. Maybe one day, Google. In terms of battery, the Pixel 3 comes in at just under 3000 mAh while the larger is 3430 mAh. I'm not one to religiously test screen-on-time performance, but I didn't have a single day with either of these devices where I felt the need to top up between nightly charges. What really differentiates the Pixel 3 are its software features and optimizations. The first place you'll feel the benefits of Google software is just using the phone itself. Android 9 Pie is blazing fast on this phone. It's faster and more responsive than the snappy Pixel 2 XL, which in my experience was previously one of the leaders in this category. Seriously, in my first week, with the exception of a few little bugs that will probably be worked out soon, the Pixel 3 feels like a dream. I still don't like Google's take on gestures as much as Apple's, but at least their bad take is lag-free and seamless on the Pixel 3. And on that note, opening apps, multitasking, quickly switching between recent apps, booting up the phone, unlocking the phone, all of it feels faster than even a fresh install of Android on the Pixel 2 XL. Beyond Android itself though, Google is curiously listing Google Assistant under the operating system section of the spec sheet for the first time this year. With the Pixel 3, you're getting the phone with the most Google Assistant features, and you're getting them first, and you're also getting the phone that will likely get the most future features for the longest time. Those features include the Assistant itself and its countless features, which you can activate by squeezing using Active Edge, Google Lens, in-camera lens is exclusive to the Pixel 3, a new Pixel exclusive feature called Call Screen, new Pixel Stand functionality, and more. Call Screen was perhaps the biggest wow moment of the October 9th event, and rightfully so. I haven't had a chance to practically use it yet, but never having to deal with spam calls ever again is a huge win no matter who you are. We'll be giving the Pixel Stand a full review, but it's a nifty new $79 accessory that's exclusively for the Pixel 3 that brings even more useful assistant functionality. For one, your phone is essentially transformed into an always listening Google Home. There's also a cool sunrise alarm feature that brightens your phone display slowly in the morning. Pixel Stand acts as a fast wireless charger, and it shows a full screen photo gallery when not in use. One of the biggest software benefits with the Pixel 3 though is its prowess in computational photography. By my untrained eye, the camera, but more precisely what Google's doing computationally with the photos it captures, is as good or better than last year's Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL. That's saying something given that last year's phone is still widely regarded as the best mobile camera even after a year of stellar smartphone launches like the Galaxy Note 9, iPhone XS, and more. One thing that makes it so great is the Visual Core chip. The Visual Core is now being used for some of the new features including Top Shot and Photo Booth. Other new features this year include wide-angle selfies, which take advantage of that second front-facing lens, super res zoom, live tracking autofocus, and more. The Google Camera app itself also got a really nice redesign. You can now swipe easily between the various modes and get a nice haptic feedback when you do. It's incredibly quick and really shows off just how well optimized the Pixel 3 is in terms of software. We'll get more in depth with the camera in the future, but my initial impression is that once again, if there's any one thing that makes the Pixel 3 and 3 XL great, it's this camera. Portraits are solid, low light is phenomenal, and you'll be surprised how little effort it takes to really get some stunning shots out of this thing. One last note, I filmed a good percentage of the footage for this review on the Pixel 3, so maybe that gives you a worthwhile idea of what it can do. The reputation the Pixel has picked up in photography is well deserved, but I think what really makes the Pixel 3 and 3 XL such a great value overall is not any one feature, but everything coming together to make an overall great user experience. Now playing, call screen, unlimited free Google photo storage, an incredible camera, the insanely buttery UI, Android Pie, and digital wellness, the Pixel Stand, and more. All these things are great, and many of them you can even find on other phones. But I don't think any of the Android alternatives, even the best of them, exist at this same intersection of doing as much as the Pixel 3 does, as well as it does, as simply as it does, and as thoughtfully and nicely as it does. The Pixel 3 is a phone that Google wanted to be the best possible overall experience for the most people, especially in the context of the AI assistant and Google's ecosystem of other hardware like the Google Home and Chromecast. In that regard, they've landed themselves a major success in my book. This has been Stephen Hall with 9to5Google, and you can read our full review over at 9to5google.com. Thanks for watching.